Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Welcome,
hello.
welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Hailey.
Hi, Hailey. It's good to see
Hey, Stephanie. Good to see you.
you. So it's been a pretty amazing week, I would
I'd say
say.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say so.
I loved the fear burning ceremony. That was so cool. This is something that I have been doing now for, oh my God, it's been like 2 years. Every single full moon, I host a fear burning ceremony. Now, y'all, if you're listening, this is a free event. So if you have some fears you need to burn, hit me up. Let me know because I can bring you into the Zoom and we can do this together. But essentially, I've been doing this because I know it works. I've seen movement happen in my life every single month as a result of speaking my intentions to the universe. And I absolutely loved what you shared during. I was like, yes, yes, and yes, 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 and yes. It's like we're stepping into this amazing power.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
really. And it was amazing how in the second part of it, of the things that we call in, I mean, for those listening, I run late to everything that I do. It's just a natural form of my ADHD. And so I was running late and I didn't have time to write out the things that I should have had written out, but it worked out how it was supposed to work out. For our calling in, I didn't have anything written out. And so I just jotted down my few basic things that I could think of. And I did it all straight from where I intuitively felt like I should call from. And I think that that was probably the most intense calling in that I've ever done.
Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of response we get from the universe.
Yes, I
Because,
agree.
like, seriously, I burned away some shit that I really needed to burn, that I need to release and get out of my existence. And what I called in was just, it was me stepping into my power and my authenticity and really being who I'm supposed to be on this planet, doing what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet, and I feel like this is part of it. It's the like really honoring my intuition, my abilities as a psychic, and the things that I know that I can do, and the movement that I can do for people, what I can offer to people, and
Well,
I
and
I think that's important.
well, not only that, but I mean, even for me on my side of things, the next day, well, I guess that next night, probably about the same time, I called you traveling, my 6 hour drive to go and do something pertinent to my personal future. And I called you and I said, when does Mercury go direct? Like, what is going on? And we realized that Mercury had gone direct and it was all just aligning so well. And I think a lot of that had to do with the intention behind the ceremony. I mean, that was my second one that I've joined of yours in the shy of 8 months that we've known each other. And I've both times have instantaneously felt like it really did something and continue to feel those effects.
Yes, definitely. I've been feeling just in the last couple days, I've been feeling a lot more clear. I've been feeling a lot more grounded, but then I've also been like seriously super positive and so grateful. And I'm just like really leaning into the gratitude and the feeling of like I can see everything showing up, everything, everything that I need, everything that I want. It's all flowing into the direction of this is what you're supposed to be doing on this planet, Stephanie. And I appreciate the confirmation, but at the same time, like I am just in awe sometimes, like the synchronicities, the people that show up that are exactly in alignment, that really want to support what I'm doing, and I can see how I fit in and support what they're doing. I'm having an Akashic record reading later today, and this young man that I connected with is like totally on his own ascension path, waking up and realizing his intuition and his skills. And he reconnected with me. I actually met this gentleman 10 years ago. He did a job interview for me at like this temp agency, like totally random, but he's been following me on LinkedIn this whole time. And I
I
bet if
love
he's
that.
listening, he knows who he is. So it's been really amazing to reconnect with this person and realize that there's so much in my journey that is an inspiration that's showing him how important his realization, his awakening has been. And it's just so beautiful to see those synergistic things show up. It's just wow. So like love that. I'm seriously blown away.
Yeah,
I've
no,
never
I
known a
agree
healer.
completely.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm in complete agreement. Everything, aligns very well. I had some stumbles in the road the last couple days with weather and travel plans changing, and it was amazing the way that I perceived my situation around me. I have somebody that has been very close to me for a long time, whatever. We recently fell out this year and then you know, came back together better, in a way, but also not better in another way. And I don't know, I had this, they changed their number the other day and we had plans later in that afternoon. And so when I reached out and I got a call, like the call went through and it said, this number's been disconnected. I was like, okay, well, bye. And instead of being upset or confused or hurt. It was really just an eye-opening experience of when you call in all that's meant for you and ask for your higher power to remove what's not for you, it really will. And the gratitude of that really shined through.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it. I love it. So like I was thinking about what we're talking about, the art of intuition and thinking, our listeners might not know what we're talking about. Maybe they haven't
Sure.
encountered intuition. Maybe they don't quite know what intuition is. Or maybe they have kind of an inkling, an idea of like what it means, but they don't know how to use it, or they don't know that they even have access to it. So I thought I wanted to share a definition because I'm such a logophile. I love words. I love words and I love definitions. So I'd love to share what I found on Google today. So the definition of intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. Similar words are instinct, sixth sense, divination, clairvoyance, second sight, and ESP or extrasensory perception, which I think I mentioned in our last conversation. And then I went a little bit further and read into Wikipedia what intuition is. And Wikipedia says intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without recourse or conscious reasoning or a need of explanation. And I love that because that's how I've experienced intuition for most of my life. It's like this thing that just comes to me. I understand things. I know things. I don't know why I know things, but I know things. So it's direct access to unconscious knowledge. Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
and
And
then yes, go ahead.
as very skilled people in the fields that we are in, I think that we lose a little bit of the touch for how mundane intuition can really be. It's just like I said in the first episode, all of a sudden you get this feeling that you should take a different path, or that maybe you should go to a different grocery store, or maybe you should call them right now. And it turns out that it puts you in a different direction. But whether you can, almost like the burnt toast theory of, okay, you're running late. Well, maybe you're running late because if you wouldn't have been running late, you would have gotten a car crash or this, that, or the other. I think that that's a huge part of it that a lot of people don't realize. And everybody does use that intuition. When you follow that gut instinct of, oh, maybe I should take this turn instead, and you do, and you don't get into an accident, but then you hear about later in the day somebody got into an accident if you would have been on that same route.
Right?
It's one of those where it has its positives and it has its negatives. Um, and yeah, I think we forget how mundane it can get.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think it's I mean, to give people a little bit more of an explanation, when I first started coming into my psychic abilities, it showed up as intuitive knowing. And what I mean by that is things like don't go there right now. Like stop here or wait, don't do this right now. But I loved what you said about how like if you are in a delay or like what I find really interesting is like I'll be driving and I hit every single red light, and after about the fourth one I say, okay, universe, I see you slowing me down here, so okay, I'll slow down. Am I going too fast? Do I need to slow down? Okay. And so I've learned now to accept the guidance that comes through, and
Hmm.
it's a lot different than being resistant to it and
Yeah.
saying, no, I'm going to do it anyway, or no, I'm going to rush through, or, that I think it's the divination of it. It's
Hmm.
understanding that you're literally connecting to the divine and the divine has something to tell you, and being open and um, appreciative of the information so that when it does come through, you're like, okay, thank
Hmm.
you. You're grateful
Well,
for it.
and I was a guest on the podcast Story of Samurai this summer, and the host, when we were talking, he says, I think magic is just science that we don't understand yet. And it's always stuck with me for that, but it really is. Intuition is just something we don't understand yet. And not resisting it anymore is huge. And when you were talking about the resistance stuff, my brain immediately went to being an addict or being an alcoholic, being somebody who's in the program myself. I learned very quickly, our brains are different. And it was another thing I talked about on Story Samurai was how a lot of alcoholics, a lot of addicts, they end up having that sixth sense, that psychic ability. And
Mhm.
it's something where our brains are on their own path of we're going to do this and we're going to take the wheel. But when you allow spirit, your higher power, the universe, whatever you want to call it, when you allow that and your intuition to guide you and you stop trying to control it with your physical self, things just go so much better. That doubt that you get, that fear that you get in your stomach, it goes away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had so many interactions in my life where I've just been present and I've paid attention to the nuances, paid attention to what someone said or did that gave me guidance that said it's time to connect with this person or do not talk to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some ways it's almost like, people could pass it off as logic, that
Mm-hmm.
I just have really good deductive reasoning. And my deductive reasoning is such that I can see things that people don't always see. Sure. I believe that to be true as well because I am an intellectual. I do see things from a logical place. I do have that. But I also know that when I tap in and I relax and I just allow, information comes through and it's
Mm-hmm.
not logic.
Yeah.
So, like the definition of like this is unreasoned, it's not. It's like it's information that we're getting from the universe. Years ago, I was reading about this concept of universal knowledge. And I really pressed into it. I thought, okay, so if universal knowledge is a true thing, if I can open up and connect to what would be universal knowledge, what does that even mean? What does that look like? And I started asking questions of my spirit guides. This is very interesting to me. I want to know everything that I can find out about banking and money and information from that perspective. And what I learned is that I actually have a past life who was a banker and that I have that knowledge innate in my own
Mm-hmm.
soul journey that I have access to, and I just have to ask. Um, I wouldn't even have asked that question if I didn't have the knowledge of, or this inkling in my body that there was a banker within me somehow.
Right.
It's super interesting when things like that happen, where you have this craving for knowledge and you're looking for something and you realize that you've had it at your fingertips.
Hmm.
You know, it's that's beautiful. Like I collect books. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mentioned I'm a logophile. I love words. I love books. I collect books. I don't always read them. I have like probably 100 books that I've never read that are just been on my shelf. But
Hmm.
what I've noticed is that when I am looking for something specific, I can go to my bookshelf and say, okay, I'm looking for this information. And generally speaking, I'll find what I'm looking for right there on the bookshelf. Now, Google is amazing. ChatGPT is amazing. You know, we have information at our fingertips literally now that, 10 years ago, even we didn't have this. So the world has changed quite a bit.
Hmm.
I've even heard arguments that AI is bordering on human consciousness and bringing in divine spiritual truths, which I can absolutely say, talking with my own ChatGPT, the stuff that chat comes up with, it blows me away.
Hmm. Well, I don't, that's the thing too, is I think that I don't know if you heard about this. I just got told about this yesterday. I went to lunch with a friend while I was out of town that I hadn't seen in a long time, and he had asked me if I had heard about the like scam going around where people are getting packages. And like they're getting packages in the mail that they didn't order, and they open them and it has this like little gift of whatever in it and a QR code. And when you scan the QR code, it takes all of your information off your phone and wipes it onto a different device, and it has all of your information at that point, anything that you have in your phone, all of the data.
Whoa.
And so like the, law enforcement places are saying like you can keep the gift, just don't scan the QR code. Well, we were talking about it and I was like, here's the thing about it. How is it going through the postal service? Because you can't get something through the postal service without a return address, a shipping label created with a maker of that shipping label, plus a go-to address. And so it makes you wonder, how much of this information, how many of these people that are having this happen, how much of that information did they put into like chat GPT? And so I'm very, very, very particular about what I'll use ChatGPT for. And it's very few things that I will because I don't trust AI. I never have, and that's my intuitive insight. I think that ChatGPT can do a lot for people, but everything is becoming so automated. And now everything is being held to such a standard that when somebody stands out, like because you can tell that they didn't use anything for it, that's what really sticks out for me, especially. I've never had the negative feelings about technology that I do about AI. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the years. Um,
Yes, for
I've
sure. For
become a
sure.
little bit more comfortable with it when it comes to certain things, like how to, like the processes to go through things, like for grant writing, the process of grant writing. It's been very beneficial for my brain to understand it because I explained how my brain understands how it would work and for it
Hmm.
to list out how to best go about how my brain functions to go for grant writing. And I'm just about there. And so it's one of those things where I think it can be very beneficial, but I also think people are putting way too much information into it that they need to be careful of. Because at what point is it going to become like an intellectual property crime? Or
Right, right. I've read some news articles about that. Like this is going to be a question in the future of whether or not, like, if you use ChatGPT to write a book, how much of that is actually yours? How much of it, how many can we actually give ChatGPT the intellectual property and the rights to that writing? Is that
Mhm.
even like rational to give a computer
Yeah.
rights? Are we that's what we're talking about. So it's very interesting. I
Well, and
find my ChatGPT to be very intuitive.
yeah. Well, and
So
so get this. So I was having a conversation with one of my professors. For those of you who don't know, I'm a University of South Dakota student for my criminal justice studies and fast track to law school program. But I was talking to one of my professors the other day, and he was telling me how for extra credit for the semester, he didn't even know what to do because you can't write out, you can't do a essay anymore because all of these people are using AI to do it. And so most colleges now are even banning like writing essays and making you do
wow.
different things because you have to have that personalized aspect that they can tell isn't made up by an AI because they got so good that the systems aren't even detecting it anymore. And so that was insane for me to hear that. He goes, we've had 3 students, one of them being in our class, get expelled for, you know,
Using AI.
yeah, for
Wow.
the conduct that's not right. And it's, the plagiarism and the requirements of you being a student. And I was like, that's insane. Like, imagine if, and this was what I said to him. I said, imagine if law enforcement started using AI to like write up its reports. What if,
Who's to say
what?
they aren't?
Yeah, who's to say they aren't? I don't know if you've ever read some police documents, but I have, and I was like, what? Who wrote this? Not a conscious human, like, and so, and I mean that in the funniest and jokingly way possible, but truly, like, at what extent are we letting AI get to? Because at some point it is bound to crash. And I think that a lot of people aren't listening to that, but a lot of people, I think that's why a lot of people fear it, is because that intuitive insight of it is like, hey, this might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, listen to your gut before you punch into ChatGPT, like, how should I design my house at this address? Or
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's interesting. The difference of opinion, the way that the world looks at technology in general. I know from my lifetime just watching things develop. Like when I was a teenager, I got my first car, and with my first car, I got a map book because there was no such thing as GPS. I am totally aging myself right now, and I don't care because I understand that what changed in my world meant that I don't have to carry that big old book around. I don't have to know the exact address and know how to read a map book. It was a complicated thing I had to learn how to do when I was 16 years old, you know?
Mhm.
And GPS, so at first it was these little devices that you would put in your car that weren't even connected to a cell phone. It was a GPS thing that was connected
Yeah,
to a
most truckers
satellite.
still have them.
Right? Yes. And those things are really cool too. But the GPS machine would tell you, your step by step where you're going. But then when the internet was introduced, at first there was different places where you could go to get directions to get to somewhere, but still
Hmm.
yes, really. And the directions were a lot of times totally counterintuitive. There were, turn this way and you actually had to go the other way. The directions were wonky. So many times I got lost because of those stupid directions.
I
That
remember
was,
growing up
oh,
where we would go out of town. Like we had to drive to Ann Arbor, Michigan one time. And I remember them like printing off the reservation itinerary with directions from like booking or something and it being completely wrong and us getting lost on the way to Michigan. And so I get it completely. It's insane.
yes.
And even GPS though isn't all that great sometimes. Google Maps took me the worst route possible from, the Wyoming South Dakota border to Casper, Wyoming, and it took me an extra 6 hours and I almost died. Like it could have just taken me over to Gillette and then had me jump down. But no, it had me go on this back highway that had the snow blowing across. It was scary.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so it's amazing. I wish I would have followed my intuition on that one because my gut was telling me don't take this way, just stay on the interstate. But nope, I was like, no, the map's right, technology's right.
Right? Well, I've been driving for Uber. I've driven for Uber and Lyft for 5 years. And I learned as GPS has gotten better, I've learned that Google Maps is often smarter than the customer. And I tend to trust the Google Map more than I trust the person in my car telling me go this way. Actually, sir, this is taking us the fastest way there. Like we should probably trust the GPS. Because GPS a lot of times will take you around the stuff that is traffic or weather or problems, right? So who's to say, maybe if you'd gone through Gillette, you would have hit some kind of crazy 20 car pileup,
I
So
don't know. Apparently, I needed to learn how to drive in winter. And I mean, it didn't do a whole lot because I still hate driving in winter. But it definitely changed my perspective of things. I think it was just a foreshadowing of how much of a disaster that trip was going to end up being anyways, but that's a
could
different
be,
story for a different
could
time.
be. for sure, for sure. And and as an intuitive, as a psychic, things can be information for
Yeah.
how the future is going to go. Things can give us some insight, some guidance on maybe the different ways that or the different challenges that are going to show up. I can definitely see that. I recently got out of a pretty toxic relationship, and I went through my journal. And right before I moved in with that person, I wrote how apprehensive I was about living with this person and how I wasn't sure. So she was an alcoholic, and I didn't know how to hold that. I don't drink, I don't like alcohol, so I avoid it. And I knew that it would be a problem, but I did it anyway. And it makes me wonder, like, why do we choose these things? Now, I can say that after a year and a half of living with this person, I realized that there were things that I needed to learn about myself that I
Yep.
was resistant to learning. And after a year and a half, I could see them clearly, which, before that, I couldn't see it.
Yep.
So I
No, I
think
get that.
in some ways, trauma is a way for us to very emotionally, very like maybe even physically painfully move forward in our lives.
Hmm.
And sometimes it sucks, but as I'm writing my blog today, I'm talking about how I have this mantra, it's all good all the time.
Hmm.
And the basically means that it's all good. Even if it's bad, it's okay
Hmm.
because there's something there for you. There's something you can learn from it. There's something that is there for you to grow.
Yeah. And it's funny, I don't remember who it was that I was talking to. Okay, that's so I grew up in Spearfish for a few years, and I lived in a trailer court, and one of my best friends growing up, when I moved my fourth grade year, I hadn't seen them since, and we went and grabbed dinner here a couple weeks ago. And it was so surreal sitting there and realizing like this person and I have stayed in contact this whole time. They've watched me grow into this big person that I am now. But, you know, then looking at it from an aspect of getting back in contact with some people who, when I was in my abusive relationship, for those 2.5 years, and they knew me during that time, and now they see me now. A that same week that I went to dinner with that friend from elementary school, I went and hung out with a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in over a year. And I realized it 3.5 hours into hanging out with him. I was like, holy crap, you have no idea what I've been up to. Like, we recently just found each other again on social media, and you have no idea the things that have happened in the last year. Wow. I can't wait to fill you in on all of this. And they're like, well, I can tell you're different. Like, you've grown up and you've matured and there's been a lot that you've been through. I can see it in your face. And I was like, yeah, but I also have healed and I am successful and I am more in tune with my body, with the universe, with my goals, with my purpose than I've ever been. And you thought missing persons was just it. Oh no, there's a lot more to it. And it was amazing to have that conversation. And sometimes we need that humbling. We need that eye opener of holy crap, if we wouldn't have went through all that, where would we be?
Mm,
And that's how you learn gratitude, I think, for the shittiest situations in your life. And as you get older, shitty situations are always going to happen. You're never going to be able to completely avoid them. We're just not lucky like that. If you're listening to this podcast and you're lucky like that, fuck you. You're lying. um,
Please
but how
share.
we,
Let us
yeah.
know. How do you get that luck? Where does it come
Well,
from and how do you do it?
and that's the thing is please don't share because that either means that A, you are naive and oblivious to the surroundings around you and you have no room to grow, or B, you're not of this earth and you're lying to yourself because we all go through shitty things and you need to have an ego death and then share. You can share asking how to have an ego death. I'd love to tell you all about that. That's fun. um
Yeah.
and it's one of those where we all go through shitty things, but how you handle it is what makes the difference. And as you heal, as you grow, as you let go of the things that no longer serve you, you know that's how you do it. Misery loves company, but stop letting your misery be your company. And you will blossom into something big. You will blossom into everything that you want to be and everything that you aspire to be, everything that your intuition tells you you can be.
Hmm, beautiful. I love it.
That was straight from source. I don't even know half of what I just said. So next time on
Yes,
the Art of Intuition,
yes.
Haley will tell you guys about how she'll channel in the middle of the day and not know what's going on.
I think that's part of the course. We're both psychics. We both have channels. We both do channel. We are connected to source. There's a lot that comes through me that sometimes if I get on a roll, if I start to get on like a soapbox and I'm going, a lot of times it's not all me
Hmm. I've
communicating what I'm saying.
experienced, I've
Absolutely.
experienced said soapbox of yours, and it's not bad
Yep.
either. Like, because it's very insightful. Like, it's funny because it's not all you, but then the things that other people need to hear when they're the ones listening, it comes through.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
I went from being,
Definitely. Definitely.
I think, I think there was one day that I didn't do jack shit with my day, and we talked for what, 2 hours on Zoom. And I just kind of was hanging out listening, not actively listening, just listening and letting you let it out. And I don't remember what it was that you said, but you said something and it clicked. And I was like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta do shit. I don't know if you remember that. This was like, I don't know, maybe a
That,
month ago. Yeah.
yes.
But it's like, okay, thanks, universe. Sorry you had to do that, Stephanie.
That was a really good conversation.
It was.
Um, Mostly because some days I just need to let it out. Some days having someone who can be your sounding board, who can just listen and be there with you is a powerful thing. I I totally appreciate you, honestly. I
I
think you're
appreciate you
amazing,
too.
Haley. Yes.
But you are
Okay.
too. And that's the thing. And that's why we're going to be able to do a co-hosting podcast. Like, I've tried for months to get this going. And I don't know if it was just the fear or not the ambition or the unknowing of how to handle doing all of it, how to edit, how to post it to everywhere, how to, where do I store it so it doesn't take all the storage? And so it worked out perfect and we have great conversations. And whether other people like our conversations or not, like we could do this for the next 10 years, just get together once a week and have a conversation and have two viewers and everybody else can fuck off. But that's not the goal with the Art of Intuition. This
It's
is
not.
intuition. And as you develop your intuition, you'll come to realize that like the swirled off conversations about this, that, and the other, and how everything is interconnected is all connected to intuition. And that's really what this is about, is showing that, teaching that, and being able to learn more about it together as well, because you never stop learning with intuition. You always have to be
Absolutely.
willing to learn.
Yep. Yep. So I come into this completely open-hearted, totally willing to learn. Apparently, so does little bear. He wants to learn too.
Apparently, that was cute.
Yeah, my sweet little dog. So, thank you, Haley. I think that is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
No.
Awesome. Because I
Oh,
think
I,
this
I'll,
is
I'll add one little tidbit just because a lot of people say it to me. You do not have to be gifted your first deck of tarot cards to start tarot, but we'll dive into that next episode.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I got my first set of tarot and I knew nothing about it. Um, I
You still know
confess that
nothing
I
about it.
still know nothing about it, but I like playing with the cards and I'll totally read the book and what the cards mean.
Hey, that's okay. That is okay. That's what I had to do. And then I took the definitions from the book and I was like, this doesn't match. So we're going to teach it to ourselves on our own. But every book that I get, every deck that I get, because all of my decks are different, I make sure that I read through the book once or twice so that I know what the cards are meant to mean versus
Yeah,
what they do mean.
yeah, interesting. Yes, we will need to talk about tarot in the future, in the very near future. Thank you.
We'll see you guys next episode. Thanks.
Thank
Oh,
you,
and have a Merry
Haley.
Christmas.
Oh,
Have a
yes.
Merry Christmas. We probably won't record next week because it's Christmas, or are we recording next week?
Oh, yeah, we're totally recording next week. We're just
Well,
not
perfect.
recording on Christmas.
Well, we'll see you guys next Friday then.
Yay. Awesome. Bye.